watching Parliament TV. We are here at the Olive Convention Center here in Durban, where the Women's Charter Review program was taking place, and we just concluded the program now. But I am now joined in studio representing the Premier of the province, KwaZulu-Natal province, by the MEC for Finance, Mayor Peggy Nkonyeni. Ma'am, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and good evening to all viewers at home.
It's a pleasure to have you. What's your reflection on the program, the challenges that the women were raising in here today, and some of the challenges that were highlighted by different entities that were represented here? Your overall impression as the province.
Okay, let me start off by appreciating this journey that the National Council of Provinces has actually embarked upon of reviewing the Women's Charter and how are we as provinces implementing the programs that have to do with acceleration of women's development. Indeed, it's quite a progressive program according to us as the province. That's why we're appreciating it. I even wish that we could have such engagements regularly, because you could see when women were afforded an opportunity to raise their issues, they really need such platforms so that they can be listened to by those who are representing them in various institutions like your National Council of Provinces, like your Provincial Executive Council, Provincial Legislature, the metros and the municipalities. Of course, women were not happy about the fact that eThekwini Metro could not attend this engagement. But we do acknowledge the fact that there was a full council meeting today, and all councillors, including the mayor, were supposed to be there. So we humbly apologize to women of eThekwini in particular for the non-attendance of the Honorable Mayor of the eThekwini Metro. But of course, we are committing that we will afford them another opportunity, even if it's not going to happen through the NCOP, so that they may be given an audience whereby they can raise their issues. It's not only women of the eThekwini Metro, but women across the board would like to raise issues with government. Of course, women are still complaining about the fact that when it comes to participation in economic activities, they are not there in various sectors of the economy. This is what we need to pay attention to. There are various sectors of the economy, like your maritime sector, your rail sector, your aviation sector, and including the Black Industrial Revolution program that was initiated by government. There are very few women who actually participated and benefited from that program. So we need to pay attention to that as government and ensure that we empower them with information, because some women do not even understand how to establish a company, a trading entity, and different types of trading entities. So they need the type of information of empowerment so that they may also participate equally like their male counterparts.
Are there specific programs? I'm glad I'm talking to someone who's in the finance sector who understands, who has a better understanding. Are there specific programs with gender sensitive kind of budgeting that the province is running at the moment? I'm talking about programs that will impact on the life of a young girl, for instance, from KwaMhlabuyalingana, an old lady in Gamalake, and different like far-flung areas of the province. Someone who's sitting in that area listening to you now, what programs does government have at the moment that will impact on their lives positively?
Okay. Actually, the Premier of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Honorable Nomusa Dube, did commit that we will be looking at budgeting processes through a gendered lens. But of course, there are other vulnerable groups like your young people, the youth. Of course, when we are talking about that sector, the youth sector, we are also talking about girl children. The people with disabilities. Just yesterday, I had a meeting with them. They have now established chambers, business chambers throughout the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And they were saying to us, they also need to be afforded business opportunities by government. They need to be acknowledged because they can actually implement the projects if they are afforded an opportunity to do that. So this government of the African National Congress in the province of KwaZulu-Natal is ready to acknowledge all sectors so that all sectors can actually participate effectively and equally throughout all the programs that are initiated by government. And we're encouraging people to come forth so that we can give them audience. And there are a number of programs like your Operation Vula. They need to know how to access such opportunities. As you could hear some of them asking, how do we access such opportunities? Because through the media, we could see other people benefiting from such programs whereby government is actually accelerating the development, the economic development of young people and of all sectors in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. As the MEC now for finance, my commitment is that we will be looking at the strategic plans and the APPs of all departments so that we may ensure that when we allocate budgets, we are sure of the fact that all sectors of the society are benefiting, especially women.
At this current moment, I mean, I was outside when the program was running and I spoke to a few women, some of them coming from very far off. And they were saying to me, we're not sure if we're going to get a chance to speak, but we were affected adversely by the floods and help still hasn't come our way. What do you say to those kind of women in terms of the current government projects that you have? And obviously some of them maybe as who ran small businesses, the infrastructure was obviously affected by the floods as well. How is the government coming in to assist?
The government of KwaZulu-Natal is very, very much concerned about those people who are still accommodated in shelters. Such that yesterday in our Provincial Executive Council meeting, that matter arose and there was an intense discussion about the commitment that we had made that everybody who is still accommodated in shelters would have been relocated to a better shelter. Like for instance, the MEC, Dr. Mahlaba for Human Settlements, together with the National Minister of Human Settlements, Mayor Kubai, had actually committed to relocate some of the people who are residing in shelters right now to a better place here in Durban. There will be, I'm still very hopeful that by the Christmas period, they would have been relocated through the program of the Department of Human Settlements.
In terms of social relief, is there any that's being offered to?
Yes, the Department of Social Development that is actually led by MEC Khoza, who was here earlier on, is actually offering social relief of distress every time, you know, such that we also become worried because most of the budget is now going there, of the budget that is supposed to be doing actually leading other programs in the Department of Social Development is now catering for those people who are still living in shelters. the budget of the Department of Social Development. So we are really taking care of them. Of course, we cannot be complacent and say people are 100% satisfied. There are many people who are still complaining about the slow pace of service delivery when it comes to such an issue like those who were affected by floods.
What can the people of KwaZulu-Natal look forward to in terms of the government's response to obviously the issues that were raised here, but also the many other issues that we've not touched on? You are very much aware of them as the government. What can the people of KwaZulu-Natal look forward to?
You know, there was a very, very pertinent issue that was raised here with regards to the forensic laboratory that is not functional in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We have been raising this issue with the Honorable Minister of Police, General Bheki Cele. We made an announcement, a very progressive announcement today that says, actually, the minister has now committed that a budget will be allocated in order to ensure that we do have a forensic laboratory here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal that will assist us to curtail the issues of criminality in the province. Like, for instance, if a criminal has committed a crime, and then a person perhaps or dies, and then a forensic analysis is conducted, it becomes very difficult for us to respond, or for our police to respond promptly, because they must take the DNA, blood analysis, or whatever analysis that they are doing to Pretoria, driving to Pretoria, you know. They must be accommodated there. While officials in Pretoria are still doing that, I don't know, perhaps for 2-3 days, and then they come back, you know, after some time. Sometimes it takes them the entire year in order for us to get the results back, you know. So this thing has been happening, and it has been torturing our people in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Now that the minister is saying there is budget allocated for that particular purpose, for the establishment of the forensic laboratory, I were very happy, because it will assist us in reducing criminal activities in the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
The buzzword was gender sensitive planning, gender sensitive budgeting today. I'm just thinking of other challenges that women are faced with in the province, gender-based violence, the issue of child and forced marriages, sometimes not forced, but, you know, yes, those kind of issues. How do we, like, with the backdrop of the cultural element and the religious element, how do we as a province deal with such?
We have been engaging the traditional leadership in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, because we're saying to them, there are other criminal activities that can never be dealt with. Crime is crime. A crime cannot be dealt with by a traditional leader. You know, we're trying to empower. We have been empowering the Amakosis in Duna that if there is a rape happening in your area and you are aware of that, please make sure that that type of a crime is reported to police. You can't deal with that, with those things. You can only deal with issues like, for instance, if a neighbor has done something, your chicken is perhaps invaded your yard, and then you're complaining about that because you are now growing your maize and you are not going to be harvesting anything. Maybe you can go to the traditional leader to deal with such issues. But criminal activities need to be reported to the police. So most of the time now, we have seen police visiting these traditional councils councils in order to empower them about all those criminal activities and what procedures should they follow in order for them to work with police in terms of reporting those crimes.
Any plans after this session, the engagement, any plans to engage the women of KwaZulu-Natal further?
Yes, we will be engaging women of KwaZulu-Natal, thereby empowering them. As I did indicate earlier on, that some of them would like to participate in the economic activities, but the truth of the matter, they don't know how to do it. When I was still deployed in the Department of Human Settlements and the Department of Transport, I realized that women have actually formed themselves into advocacy organizations. And they want to be trained, they are demanding to be trained so that they may know how to fill in a tender document. And what we need to pay attention to, not only as KZN government, but even the national government and the local government, is that there is no way right now of ensuring that you realize the ownership, like the sector that owns a particular entity. Like, for instance, as I indicated that I had a meeting with a disability sector yesterday, I asked the officials, is there a way of acknowledging that that entity is owned by a disabled people? And they said, no, it's very difficult. But what is good now about our transformation agenda as a country is that there are these procurement regulations that have been released. We are busy now training CFOs and supply chain managers on these regulations. That you see, the regulations are saying each public entity may actually make a determination on how to allocate points according to the sectors of the society. So we will be monitoring that. We have developed a lot of interest in those regulations because it has been very difficult for us to achieve what we envisage to achieve through the transformational agenda.
And finally, in conclusion, I know I'm keeping you very long here. The challenges that are raised and some of the interventions that you are mentioning, they cut across in all provinces. Are there forums that as provincial governments you sit to share notes and share best practices? Because you may find that some of the challenges that you have here at different provinces is at an advanced stage of finding a solution to it. Are there such kind of forums?
I think you are making a very progressive proposal. I take it as a proposal. Of course, there are forums like your budget council from our side, as the MECs for finance and other fora. All MECs would go to MinMax, that's where we exchange views, and learn from one another. I think through this program, because Mayor Lucas did indicate to us that you have actually been rolling out this program.
Yeah.
And of course, I strongly believe that some of the issues that have been raised by women are similar to what our women in the province of KwaZulu-Natal have raised. And I believe that there will be an appraisal, that will happen throughout the country of these issues and how to deal with them. It simply means that we need to develop an implementation plan, each government department, of course, working together, you know, as government. When I say as government, I mean the national government, the provincial government, and the local government. We need to look at these issues that have been raised by women throughout the country and then develop a program of dealing with all of them.
And let me thank you very much for making time to talk to us. And I believe the people of KwaZulu-Natal are happy to hear some of the interventions that you've just mentioned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes, that was Honorable Nkonyeni, the MEC for Finance in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, giving us her impressions of the program where women raised issues affecting them and the government addressing some of these issues. So that brings us to the end of our program today. And it was a pleasure being with you today. Good night. No. still watching Parliament TV. We are just about to wrap up. We've had the review session here at the Olive Convention Center in Durban. And I'm now joined by the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, who is the custodian of this program. And we are going to wrap up in terms of what has been taking place since the program began in May. Ma'am, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon
Like,
or good day.
yeah, we've just had a very successful session. Like we've had, I think from my side, they've been going very well since we started in May. What's your overall impression of these review sessions that we've had since the beginning, since we began in May?
Actually, this sessions, I want to just put it correctly, is the report back sessions.
Yeah.
But I want to start from the review sessions. Remember, we started in 2019, I think November. We started in Cape Town in the Western Cape with the review of the Women's Charter of 1994, the Women's Charter for Effective Equality. What we then realized is that you can't have one session in a province at that stage to make sure that you really get the voice of the woman or those that are affected by issues like the issues that the Women's Charter is actually canvassing about. And then subsequently, so it was a lockdown. Remember, COVID came and it was the lockdown. So as soon as we were supposed to start in 2020 April, the lockdown was actually came in, and all of us had to begin to adapt to the issues of virtual meetings, Zoom and Teams, you name it.
Yeah.
And we then started with the second province, but we realized again that we will have to actually revise our methodology as to how we are going to do this issue of reviewing the Women's Charter. And we came to the conclusion that we should do it district by district, or at least 2 districts at a time, so that we can be able to cover ground as far as possible.
Yeah.
That worked out for us very successfully, in that we could cover 46 of the 52 districts in the country. And the others, like for the province, we did it just to make sure that we have a blanket coverage of the country with regards to reviewing the Women's Charter.
Yeah.
I think we did quite well, and we were able to develop the revised Women's Charter for Accelerated Development, and with 15 articles from the 12 that was there initially of the 1994 Women's Charter. Now, one thing that started with that we were questioned a lot about when we started with the review of the Women's Charter was the issue of why only after 25 years? Now, I couldn't respond to that because unfortunately I came to Parliament in 2019 and I found as part of the legacy report that the Women's Charter for Effective Equality will be 25 years in existence. So in 2019, when we had our first Women's Parliament is of the 6th dispensation, we started to say we will have to resolve as to what we are going to do about the issue of the Women's Charter. And we actually resolved to go on this journey of making sure that we review the Women's Charter. So after we've actually developed the Women's Charter for Accelerated Development, everyone was really in agreement that it shouldn't be an event. It should really be used, the input of the woman, because this was extremely emotional, and also there were a lot of negativity, a lot of disappointment, but also positive outcomes, because many people were saying, well, we see women in Parliament, we see women on the magistracy, we see women in administration, we see female HODs and things. And to say the honest truth, people were saying that was things that was not happening. And since women was also the ones that are mostly affected by issues of poverty. And so we saw at least a change in our lives, that we have running water in our houses, we have electricity and so. But there is this issue, and that one came up very strongly. And that is the position of women within society.
Yeah.
And I put it like that, they say within society, because it was not only issues of gender-based violence and femicide, but it was also the issues of customary marriages, traditional things and customs that is usually women are on the losing end when it comes to these issues. But because, for instance, we had an event, and the Muslim woman came to that event. And after the event, it was a lecture, a memorial lecture. After the event, the Muslim woman asked me, "Can we speak to you?" I said, "Well, you may speak to me. What is happening?" They said, "We hear you speak about customary marriage, but what about us? Have you ever looked into our marriage regime? Have you ever seen how Muslim women was treated?" I mean, that that legislation is now being reviewed.
Yes.
But that was one of the issues that came out so strong. And in the end, I asked the Deputy Minister of Justice, explain to us on the issue of Muslim marriages for me to understand better. And I mean, it's common cause that Muslim women had literally no rights within the marriage regime. But the legislation is now being reviewed. Other women said, but we as women that are disabled, who are living with disabilities, blind women, deaf women, women that are physically impaired, we are being raped, we are being abused. And what is happening for us? You realize that this is so much bigger and greater than we could ever, we could ever actually thought that what is happening. And so that is why we started also to make our input. And then subsequently, all this gender-based violence and femicide incidents followed. Whilst we were already busy with the review of the Women's Charter, it gave us, the women of South Africa, a platform to raise the issues, and sharply so. And we brought in the Law Reform Commission, we brought in, the Finance and Fiscal Commission, part of us, Stats SA, with all the SA. In actual fact, the Finance and Fiscal Commission, as well as the Commission on Gender Equality, and also other bodies that we engage, they were actually very excited
to come on board.
Was like kind of an opportunity for them to come on board and to be with us in this process. Provinces became excited because in every province, for instance, if in my province, we've got 5 districts. After we have met with all 5 the districts, the women of all 5 the districts, we then had a high-level meeting with the executive, the premier and his exco, and we briefed them on all the issues that was raised. And that is now the issues that is tangible and things that they can change, things that they can address. So, and that is what we did.
And that's why they were making these commitments.
And that is where they were making these commitments. And because we went to them, we met and all this at that stage was done virtually. So which means we could be very productive in terms of how we have been dealing with that issue. And also one thing that was very clear is the issue of how connectivity is a big issue for rural areas. So it's some of the things that we could address. A bit of irrelevant, but a secondary issue.
Yeah, because it does impact on the participation and involvement of women.
Exactly. And also the fact that if you must give a picture, you must be able to give a complete picture of what is happening, you understand. So generally, this actually was so multi-pronged that it was unbelievable. And also we were saying to one another, even to the communications people, but we never realized that this thing is so much bigger than we have actually ever thought that it can be. But in any case, we succeeded. We met with all the executives. We met, and we were supported by the Ministry of Women on what we were busy with. And then we published the new charter. And that actually, we are working with many stakeholders on that issue. in actual fact, like I said, this gave us such a broader scope of things, because then we could arrange for someone to come and brief us about the African Trade Agreement and what is the economic prospects for women.
For women, yeah.
Within South Africa. We could then call the HSRC, say, come and tell us about issues of gender-based violence, particularly femicide. And then we could invite the academici, speak about gender budgeting, gender pay, and all of that, that kind of things. So we even had the Arts Council, because of the economic opportunities that is within the arts in different aspects. So we could now have more secondary things also, arrange for women to be able to log on and to listen to all these things. We had a partner, also the UNDP. I don't know, few people will know it, but the United Nations Development Program was a big partner in this program that we've been busy with. And I see Bekele Thomas, that she's now at NEPAT, but she was also in one of the agencies of the United Nations. She was also one of the people that came, that made inputs. So we were actually, this program, it take on a life of its own. It became a project because it really took on a life of its own. And then now we were sitting there looking into the issues, looking into our wonderful, beautiful charter, and we realized that we need to follow up, because this cannot be an event. It is in actual fact, it is a program that must be ongoing, and that is what brought us to where we are today. So we went back to all the provinces, and we start to source information from them to find out that is what you agreed on, what have you done, and how far are you, and so on. And we have gone, like you know, through all 9 provinces, because we are concluding today with KwaZulu-Natal. Interestingly enough, it's one issue specifically.
And then you covered 46 districts, you say?
46 districts out of 52 the first time, but all 9 provinces were the issues of the high-level engagement.
I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were about to mention one of the most important things that came out.
One of the most important things that came out now in the taxation, and I've been speaking about it on the different levels where I'm serving. Women found, particularly young women, that there is discrimination against women above 35 years. Because they can't get employment.
Yes.
For instance, they can't apply to be trained as a nurse. They can't apply to be in the police service. You mentioned all this state departments and agencies above 35 years.
You can't get internship or learnership.
Internship, learnership, you name it.
Yeah.
You can't get. That is a single issue besides gender-based violence and every other thing. And it's exactly because it's not necessarily gender-based violence, but it is something of equity or equality that is not being addressed. So that is one thing that I think we need a national discussion on that specific issue. Because I think that is what is contributing more to the youth unemployment. Because it is not necessarily a person. I'm 58 years and I think I'm still a youth. So what about the 35 years? They feel that they are still youthful. And I mean, what is happening? The lady that raised it to me, look, I will call her my daughter because I wouldn't know that she's over 35 years. But unfortunately, it's happening. There is a lot of discrimination. And others say we've got qualifications, but we are sitting at home because we are 35 years and older. So that is one national issue besides the gender-based violence and femicide, rape, and all of those other issues that we have noticed. One other issue that is also something that you have picked up everywhere, even in the debates that is there on gender-based violence, and so is the role of forensics.
Oh yes.
In this issue, the fact that in South Africa there is not necessarily forensic laboratories. Just now I had a discussion with people of Lifeline. It said that in KwaZulu-Natal there is in rape cases a 5-year backlog. But interesting enough, what that person is saying. Paternity test to 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and rape evidence or criminal evidence can take up to 5 years.
Hmm.
And
What a
parent-
contrast, eh?
what a contrast is it?
Hmm.
Because people are paying for paternity tests, or what is it that is happening? So, and then generally, naturally, the issue of gender-based violence,
Yeah.
but also the fact that women are just not equals in society. Because there was it has been raised all over, lack of economic opportunities. Leave the fact they said it's fine. We are 35 years of age, we can't get a job.
Yeah.
Why don't you then give us grants so that we go on with our own business? SMMEs, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So generally, women are just not equal because our government and society in general are just still at the level of the patriarchal
Yeah.
kind of
But
orientation.
they made commitments during the first round.
They
And
did.
now, when we started with the feedback session, the report back sessions, we were reviewing, we're getting feedback from them in terms of what they have done so far. In your assessment, in terms of the feedback that they are giving, do you think they are doing enough?
They are definitely not doing enough. Let me say enough is not happening. You understand what I'm saying? Because you have noble ideals and you take decisions, you make policy and whatever. But at one stage or another, it is, and it is not as if we don't have the necessary capacity. We do have. And we have the capacity to train people if we don't have the necessary skill. That is unfortunately the South Africa of today. But there is just a disjuncture between ideas, commitment,
and implementation. Yeah.
And I mean, how long will we speak about implementation? Then we must take these unemployed people and give them the jobs, and those that are not implementing must go.
But does it not talk to planning? The buzzword here was gender-sensitive planning and gender-sensitive budgeting. Is it happening?
It is definitely not yet at that stage. We actually, after we started to work with the FFC, they started to pilot many municipalities in different provinces. And they also started to pilot, like I think Treasury, and we also requested the Ministry of Women that they will have to be one of those that will have to do proper planning. But I'm of the view, the same way that we did for the Women's Charter, we must do for the National Development Plan.
Okay.
To go around and hear how many people exactly know that there is a plan and how is it integrated, not only in the government departments, because it's a plan for the nation.
Yeah, in all three spheres of government,
actually. So, and how can the DDM, the District Development Model, assist us to make sure that there is really one kind of agreement as to how we are going to implement issues, you understand? So one thing that I should say, and I'm saying it on all platforms, is not that we have a challenge with regards to dreaming up the right policies and the right plans and do a better. The problem also with planning, now that you speak about planning, we don't align our plans to our budgets. Because we have plans and we can then just say, yes, indeed, we have these plans, but we don't have the resources. So why is your budget not aligned with your plan? Because now you cut your cloth according to your means, isn't it?
Yes.
You can have your plan, you can have your bigger plan, and you have your medium term, your immediate, your medium term, and your long term planning, and then also how you are going to resource it. Because they should go hand in hand, so that we don't have the problem of, of saying that in actual fact, in South Africa, we need 2,000 teachers to fill the gap. How many teachers are we training per year? Then for 35.
Is it aligned to the needs of the industry?
It's necessarily not aligned to our needs. So, it's, and that is something that can be addressed. The problem is that I was saying to someone the other day, people are lazy to think. They don't want to think out of the box. You find it in daily life. Someone will come with something that is so, someone will say, this one is fighting with me. because he doesn't want to do this thing today.
Yeah.
Now I ask, now if he doesn't do it today, what will be the consequences? And let us look at it from that angle. And if you say, okay, it will be very serious consequences. So who else can do this besides this person? And we get it done. You
Yeah.
understand? Now you sit and you say, oh, it's very serious, but because we don't have people and this one doesn't want to do it, and what is it? Now, I was saying to someone that said to me, but we are fighting because this one doesn't want to do it. As what is the instruments in your hands? That you can make these people to do what that they are supposed to be doing. I mean, sometimes we have a challenge, and that is because we do things on the basis of Ken Makar. I know this person, so I don't want to be funny. But you can't be funny because you've got a target to reach and you've got a community to serve. I mean, the other day I listened to the radio news and they said this CEO, the who is being arrested for abusing the money of the water board. Water is for Makul, is for Tamkul, it is for Rangwan, it's for Mangwan, and it is your people. So they send you to university or college or whatever, and they give you a very good education. You get this wonderful job that is paying you a nice salary, that you can drive a nice subsidized car, you get a subsidy for housing, and you still steal the money that is supposed to give Rangwan water. What happened to our morality? It is the same thing with gender-based violence. Because if you see who is the one that is actually the perpetrator of gender-based violence, you ask yourself, why are we wasting our money to get people educated? And then we are educating pigs.
Yeah.
People, they don't know how to act like a person.
Yeah. So now, ma'am, we've done the report back sessions, and we have our content and research people compiling these reports. What happens next?
Now one of the structures that we wrote into our overall responsibility is an oversight council, which is comprises of all three spheres of government. That outcomes must go to that council, and that council must decide how do we integrate the oversight in the committees and everything of parliament, so that we can address the real issues, the issues that are raised by women or by the people of South Africa, and not artificial issues that officials want us to deal with in the way they come to report to committees. That is the next step. Yeah. And from time to time, all three spheres come together and we make sure that we account to one another as to how we have made sure that these things are being addressed. Because some doesn't necessarily need implementation. It just needs a different way of thinking. And then make sure that things being addressed. For instance, if people are saying in Harding, people are being told, January, April, you will be dead. We will kill you. And this person can go to the police January. April, you will be dead. And nothing has happened. I mean, what are we dealing with here? That is what someone just told me now. Yeah. So how do you deal with it? What is happening? The problem in South Africa is two things. It's morality, and those that are supposed to implement are lazy to think.
How do we address that?
It's very easy to address that. You know, I can't believe it that we've got legislation, we've got all the policies and things that give you instruments, but the problem is that we are making things too personal. It's on the basis of who knows who and what, and someone feel that I must suppress the potential of this person instead of doing things just the way we have decided to do it. Because if you are supposed to get your KPIs and whatever you name it, and I as your supervisor see that you are not performing accordingly, what does the law allow me to do? What does the HR policies allow me to do? I follow their policies. I will build a disciplined cadre I will build a disciplined cadre. So in order to address these things, we need to go back to the drawing board, back to basics, and begin to not make policy and rules for the sake of making them, but begin to implement it properly. And a fish rot from his head. So whoever is in charge on top must make sure it escalates down. So that people begin to understand you were looking for a job, you were unemployed, you were looking for a job. You said, I have my qualifications and whatever. You come to the job. The thing that you must have is commitment to make sure that you execute that job that you applied for.
And finally, at the level of legislatures, the provincial legislatures that are willing to take this baton on, what kind of support is the NCOP going to give?
The issue is that some of the legislatures are better equipped than the NCOP to be able to deal with these issues.
And also they are closer to the people.
And they are closer to the people, they are better equipped to do that. But I can tell you now, what will really assist if people can begin to take the district development model serious? After a deputy minister explained that thing to me in layman's language, I realized it is one of the best vehicles that we can use to make people to stop saying we are a failed state.
Yeah.
Because if we can throw that vehicle, because I have been, when I was in the legislature, I've always, my committees, I was chairperson of Treasury Committee, and I was chairperson of the Committee on Premier's Office and so on. I was always asking in my committee, how does Premier's Office ensure that there is coordinated approach to implementation? Because I have seen in times when I was also the General Secretary for IPAC because of being a member of SCOPA.
Yeah.
What I have seen is that half budget, 21 million for HIV-related programs. Education budget 2 million for HIV-related programs. Quota budget 7 million for HIV-related programs. You see what is the resource that we are having.
Yeah.
But each one of them do one small program here.
Isolated programs,
Instead of bringing all this money together and make a boom impact on that specific program.
Yeah.
And I've been advocating for it for a long time. And it's still relevant today.
Yeah.
People must stop working in silos. And one weakness that we also have in the South African government, I was in government, is that if I was the minister or the MEC, and now there is a reshuffling, you come in, you don't take my good programs forward. You don't, you can look at it and you can say, there is 8 programs, 3 of it is nonsense, but 5 at least, when it's implemented, it will make a difference. Why not?
Start from scratch.
Why not? Why must we reinvent the wheel? And when will we ever have enough money to make sure that we reach the objective that we want to reach? If each and everyone is budgeting separately something. You know that we in the province need to say, okay, someone is having a project, they are going to do a sorting for houses. We sit around the table and we ask everyone, every MEC, what will you be able to contribute to this? Because it's a community program. I was not a premier then, I was an MEC for environment. And they will discuss it, and when I come in and say, you will ordinarily bring the trees. I said, yes, indeed, because I've got trees to bring. And in my term as a MEC for environment in 4 years, I planted 3,000 trees in my province. Didn't it make a difference?
Definitely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Arts and culture, what will you bring? No, we will bring the school shoes, and we will bring one for the same community that will be the beneficiaries of that housing. Immediately we made a big impact. You understand? Each and every household get a 3 or 2 trees, get a food parcel from social development, get a school uniform from sports, arts and culture, get school books from education, social development, bring food parcels, whatever. But that one project made people to speak about it up until next year when the houses are built.
So, ma'am, in closing now, looking at this phase of the program, which is the report back sessions that we've just concluded today. I know you always want to start something and finish it. So now we've finished this phase. If you were to assess it, would you say you have achieved what we wanted to achieve with this phase of the project?
Let me tell you what is very important. Sometimes you take decisions together or you work together and you result in something, but you don't get the necessary cooperation.
Yeah.
In this phase, we didn't have a problem with issues of cooperation.
Yeah.
Premier's officers worked with us. They worked together with us. Speakers and legislatures worked together with us. Where premiers couldn't make it, they will send MECs. FFC was always available for us. CGE was always, in this round, we didn't need stats essay because we already had the information that we are supposed to be having. So we needed provincial government and we needed these two agencies. Overall, we got that, and even the district municipalities. It's only today there was an issue of 3 male mayors said to me, we can't stay here because there is no man. I don't know what you are because you guys were here, but they said there is no man. They felt quite intimidated. But I realized that there is still, patriarchy is still very strong.
Yeah, still deeply entrenched in society.
Deeply entrenched, because if someone can say to my face, now who are a man and a woman, in terms of how I must look after my family and everyone, can say to my face that there is no man here. I could have told him, nah, I'm not daughter. But I didn't want to tell them that I was shocked. Because it is a bit of backward thinking that men should be there to make sure the house is standing. Nowadays, we are women, we are carrying the house. I mean, we are carrying the house. So what I'm saying is that I'm very satisfied that we got the necessary cooperation from all three, or from all the other 2 spheres of government. We also got the necessary support from Parliament. So I'm very satisfied with how we could roll it out. Now it is also, and I can tell you now that almost all the provincial leadership, like speakers and all of them, they came back and they said, how do we on our own make sure that we roll this out further? Because this is such an incredible program. You heard it, Mankonyane was saying it just.
That's even the speaker of the legislature was saying something.
So how do we make it work for going forward? And I explained to them exactly what I explained to you, or the Oversight Council, and also the responsibility of provinces now to make sure that they roll it out further, but also to make sure that what we are concluding and what we are resolving on become entrenched in our programs on a day-to-day basis.
Ma'am, let me thank you very much. I know you've had a very busy day. I would say a very busy year, because this program was stretching from all districts, like in all provinces. But thank you very much for taking time to wrap it up for us and provide sort of a context and a broader understanding to the viewers as to what this was all about. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, viewers at home. That brings us to the end of our live broadcast today here at the Olive Convention Center in eThekwini Municipality down in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal. And it brings us to the end of our broadcast today. Good night.